Yes, we're back on Chasing Green Arrows, and yes, we are ready to answer the burning questions, the big questions that matter ahead of the big kickoff. The main man's here. G, are you ready for this? I'm going to get stuck in straight away. We've got 5 big points to cover, and the first one is going to be the best strategy for buying defenders. I am pretty confident that I'm not going to be following this strategy. So let's see what you've got to say.
Yeah, mate, these big questions, I feel like every manager should ask themselves it. But we're getting loads of new managers to FPL this year. This video will hopefully be of use to the less experienced, but also the really experienced. And the reason this is such a big question around defenders is this year more than ever, we need to adjust to new rules for defensive players. There is now 2 additional points for defensive actions. If you hit 10 defensive actions as a defender, you get an additional 2 points. Tarkowski gets an additional 2 points, like over half the time he plays. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I think that 80% there is percentage of times he gets a clean sheet. When he gets a clean sheet, 80% of the time he gets an additional 2 points. So a clean sheet isn't a 6-pointer, it's an 8-pointer plus bonus. Like, if Tarkowski's getting a clean sheet, 80% of the time he's probably hitting double digits. Like, it's huge. It's changed the game we know and love. So what's his average? Well, he averages 11.5 defensive contributions a game. You only need 10. So over half the time, he's picking up 2 additional points. The only other players that average over 10 are Lacroix and Murillo. But there's other great defensive options that pick up these points. Anderson, Branthwaite, they're really close to that threshold. Oh, actually, Collins and Richards are over 10 as well, I should add. So, look, it's changed the game. We've got to pick these defensive contribution beasts, and they are Forest defenders, Everton defenders, they're centre-backs that play for middling teams that often don't have a lot of the ball. But look, of course, there's still goals and assists on offer, and the likes of Frimpong and Ait Nori are still going to be great picks, but you need to balance it. You can't just pick 5 fullbacks like you might have done in years gone by. You need a mix of centre-backs from the middling teams, not Van Dijk and Gabriel. They won't get you DEFCON points. But you need Murillo, you need Tarkowski. I've got both those guys in my team, but I've also then got a Daniel Munoz who averages 7.5 a game. Doesn't matter. He's going to get me some goals. We're
actually getting to a stage in FPL where you can actually draw up a team on paper that looks like it would work in real life, which you never used to be able to do. You know, you could say, oh, this is a great 11. Like, I've got 2 good centre-backs, a holding midfielder. I've got full-backs that can get forward. And it actually works for FPL, finally. Right, let's move on to the next burning question, which is how many premium players do you need?
Most teams feel like they've got like a Haaland or a Salah. I know you've got both, and it's definitely possible this year, but you might have a Haaland or a Salah, and then you might have 2 other high-priced assets next to them, whether it's Watkins and Palmer, or whether it's Palmer and Saka, or it's Wirtz and Bruno. 3 to 4 is the sweet spot. You can get teams with 5 in, and it does work. There's so many good enablers this year. There's so many good 5 million midfielders. Again, midfielders pick up defensive contributions. Same as the defenders, they need 12 actions. But players like Caicedo and Elliot Anderson, they'll get loads of additional points too. Because of that, you can have 2 or 3 enablers in your team that actually aren't just 2-point merchants each week. And therefore, you can get an extra premium in. So I like the idea of stacking on premiums where possible. It gives you more captaincy options, more dependability. I think the sweet spot is probably 4. If I think of my team, I've got Salah, Palmer, but then I also have Watkins, and I'm going to count Wirtz as a premium as well at 8.5.
Sure.
I think that's very, very possible. And many have Bruno, say, instead of Palmer or instead of Wirtz. Get to 4, you got more captaincy options, and these are the best players in the game for a reason.
Absolutely. Now, in the point 3 that I want to make here, and our next burning question is, do we need all the highly owned players? Now, you see on screen, we've got 2 of the premium players in Palmer and Salah, and they're balanced out by that man in the middle, Joao Pedro, who is getting a lot of love in pre-season. Obviously, you get into the app, you go to pick your team, you press the bottom at the top of selected percent, and you can see who you should be heading towards. I don't love it. Part of me thinks that this shouldn't exist until the game's live in game week 1. It feels like a cheat code for people who have put in no effort at all. So I think that they need to get rid of that. But that's an argument for another day. What's your perspective on getting as many of the highly owned players as possible as you can into your team?
There's FPL managers some of the world's best FPL managers that will tell you start the season with the highly owned team, because if you fall away early, there's no catching up with the field. So actually, some managers I know that are brilliant FPL, they will pick based on ownership early because they don't want to fall behind. So they will make sure they've got, I'm not saying they're going to pick the 11 most popular players. They're going to pick the 3 or 4 that can really do them damage. And this season, there are only 3 that can really do us damage. Yes, Florian Wirtz is 35%. Yes, Erling Haaland might be high 20s, but they're not in the majority of teams. These are the only 3 players we can see now, Palmer, Pedro, Salah, that are anywhere near 50%, and they're all over it. And they'll continue to be over it until game week 1 hits on Friday.
Yeah.
Am I picking them because I'm worried about ownership? No, I'm picking the guys I think will get the most points, and that's all I'm thinking of. But there is a strategy that would say pick them based on ownership. But regardless of that, how are these guys going to perform for points? I think they're all amazing picks in their own right. Interestingly enough, if we had recorded this 3 days ago before the Community Shield, Mo Salah would be at number 1. He has slipped big time. Cole Palmer has massively leapfrogged him, and actually loads have sold Salah to get to a Palmer, which is interesting because Cole Palmer didn't score in his preseason for any either. But many have looked at Liverpool and gone, I want to get on Wirtz now, or I want Gakpo, or actually Ekitike looks really sharp. They're covering the Liverpool attack, maybe with 2 of them, and they're dropping Salah. And you can get Gakpo and Wirtz for a Salah. That's how expensive he is. That's nuts. I still think Salah's a good pick that should be in most teams, and he's in my team. But there are more than one good ways to play this game. And for those going without Salah, I don't hate it. He ain't a must-have this year. So it's fine to back against the field with Mo, in my opinion. But then Chelsea attack, God, you've got to cover it with at least one of these guys because that is scary combined ownership. I've got both, but I also think both are very good options.
Yeah, you say Salah's not a must-own. We'll find out whether that proves to be true. The next burning question is, again, about Salah. Salah, Haaland, both or neither? I mean, neither to me is absolutely unthinkable, but I guess you could have a best of the rest team and still do very well. What's your instinct on this?
I've seen a lot of teams with both, and it's not as much compromise as I thought it would be. When the pricing came out and I saw 14.5 million and 14 million for those 2, I was like, there's not a world in which you can have a good squad with both players. But you, and actually a fair few other good content creators that I respect, have seen good drafts where I've gone, really good looking team. Like, because there's so many good enablers, you can get players like Reinders at 5.5 million. There's good cheap defenders this year. There's, some good cheap forwards too. It can work. I don't think it's the best strategy, and it's certainly not the one I'm using. I think the optimal number is still one of them, and then you can have Salah's, Watkins, Wirtz alongside one of them. But when you look at the numbers here, this is from Rob T. Like, this is bookies odds. Like, they are fancied to be clearing away the biggest 2 scorers in the game. Haaland and Salah rank 1 and 2. Haaland for 25 goals, Salah for 19. Then you go down to Palmer at like 15 and Saka for 12. Like, we're saying these 2 strikers are going to score way more than the rest. And the bookies often are bang on the money. Going with neither is so ballsy because of captaincy. If you don't have Haaland or Salah, not only are you backing against the 2 best players in the game, but your captain options are so much more limited. You can captain Palmer in a sweet week. You can land on Saka for the right week. You can captain Watkins on the right week. But you need the fixtures to be perfect, and you need a lot to go your way. Knowing Salah and Haaland are the 2 best players by some distance, to not be able to captain them any week is rogue. So for me, I don't particularly like both. I really don't like neither. And I think the sweet spot is 1. But you have to back your gut and play.
If you're on the wrong one, you're dead.
You're dead.
Yeah, I think you're playing. I just think there should be more fear factor over not picking Haaland. It just blows my mind that that's not been the case. And I'm not sure why people think that just because the fixtures look reasonably tough for Man City, that Haaland's not going to be scoring in every single game. But I'm happy for it to happen because I am going both, and I hope that Haaland proves to be a differential in that respect. Let's move on to the final burning question, mate.
Yeah.
The first weekend of the season, we're going to see Arsenal go to Old Trafford. It's you know, a big game in terms of history in the Premier League. But how many of the players on display are we actually going to need in our team?
Yeah. Now, this was such a big question for me because they play each other, but also they both have really bad fixture runs for the first 5.
Mm-hmm.
But they're two of the highly owned or the most popular teams in the Premier League. Therefore, there's a lot of managers out there that support Man United or Arsenal and want to put their players in their teams. There's always attacks with United because there's so much interest in United. Now, they're middle of the ticker. Arsenal, Fulham, Burnley, City, Chelsea. This is filtered by difficulty on Fantasy Football Scout members area. But United, we know, have had problems. And then Arsenal, the very bottom on the ticker. But you could argue the first 2 weeks for Arsenal are quite good. Man United and Leeds. But then it's Liverpool, Forest, City. That's bad. So do we swerve?
Is it though? Is Forest that bad?
Because it's at the end. It's not. But you'd have to say you won't get a much more difficult 3-game stretch than that all season. Liverpool, Forest, City.
Maybe. But this is a team that we're expecting to potentially win the league. And so, you know, this is a team...
They park the bus, don't they? They don't score goals. It'll be 0-0.
That was last season. Last season, they had the best defensive record in the league. And they were limited in terms of what they could do in attack because of injuries, but also because they didn't have that out-and-out goal scorer. And they've gone out to fix that. And they bought Gyökeres to fix those moments.
Fair point.
So I'm expecting, given what they've just done in the window, that they now have the edge for games like that. And that's how they take that step to make up the gap and become a better team than Liverpool.
Yeah. So, to stay on Arsenal, I agree. I do think Gyökeres and Saka can still be worth consideration. Yeah. Arsenal defense is the best in the league. I'm going to have double Arsenal defense probably in October onwards. From game week 7 onwards, I think their fixtures change. I'm not going with an Arsenal defender for those 5 because I do think they're tough games. I hope you're right though, Dean. I hope we see a slightly different Arsenal in big games where they actually have a go to win. And yes, they might concede, but we might then see some goals because they're often Super Sunday games, you know, like Arsenal City, Arsenal Liverpool. I want to watch that. But under Arteta, I don't want to watch that. It's 0-0. It's 1-1. It's boring. But Gyökeres, 9 million is a great buy. And then Man United, the jury's still out. I think Sesko at 7.5 could be the one, but not for game week 1. I want to see him first. A lot to go in Bruno, and I get why defensive contribution points are there for him too. But 9 million for a United attacker or for any United player feels a lot when the fixtures aren't too kind either. So yeah, I'm cool on both those teams, and I don't think I'll have an Arsenal or a United player in my team.
Fair enough. Thank you for watching Chasing Green Arrows. As always, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll catch you later in the week as we build up to the big kickoff.